For Dooku to train Anakin as a Jedi, he must stay in the Order and would not pursue Darth Sidious. This wouldn't change the fact that he became disillusioned with the Jedi Order and Galactic Senate. He was sick of the Jedi blindly following the Senate that failed to serve the Republic and the people it represented. He felt the Order was too rigid, living in the past, and that it wasn't helping deal with the ineffective and corrupt Senate. Following Qui-Gon's death, Obi-Wan would bring Anakin back to Coruscant and proclaim he would train the boy, a promise he made to Qui-Gon. Yoda tells Obi-Wan he doesn't like this and senses darkness in the boy's training. However, the council has chosen to allow the boy to be trained. Before it's set in stone, Dooku walks in the room and announces he will train the boy. Yoda was shocked to hear this, and Obi-Wan looked up at Dooku in amazement. Obi-Wan promised Qui-Gon he would train Anakin, but he knows for the sake of the boy, Dooku would be a better master. It's also what Qui-Gon would have wanted. Yoda also feels content. He trusts Dooku and accepts. Anakin was hesitant at first to train under anyone other than Obi-Wan, but after hearing that Dooku was Qui-Gon's master, he accepted it excitingly. He quickly learned that Dooku was a strict but fair teacher, demanding the best from Anakin but also offering guidance and support when needed. He taught him the basics of lightsaber combat, the importance of mindfulness in the Force, and how to use his powers for the greater good. What is unique about Dooku's teaching is that he imparted wisdom about the wider galaxy and political landscape, explaining how the Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic fit into the larger picture. But most importantly, how he believes the Jedi and Senate and ultimately Republic are failing the people of the galaxy. Anakin resonates with this as he experienced it firsthand. A year into Anakin's training, he's still thinking of his mother. Anakin was close with Dooku, closer than Obi-Wan was with Anakin, and really sees Dooku as his father. He trusts him completely. Dooku knew some of Anakin's backstory, only that he had a mother who was alive on Tatooine. However, Anakin reveals to Dooku his past of slavery and misfortune. Dooku was enraged when he heard of this. He can't believe the council knew and did nothing. They are setting up Anakin for failure. Of course he wouldn't be able to forget his mother, who was unlucky enough to be burdened with the horrors of slavery. Dooku thinks of what to do. This is a real stump in the boy's training, and he won't be able to mentally progress until this is sorted. He makes the tough decision to go to Tatooine, with enough credits to free Shmi. However, when they get there, Watto reveals Shmi was freed by her now husband. Anakin was shocked to hear this, but also excited. They travel to the Lars moisture farm. Anakin meets his mother again after a year apart. They spend the night. Anakin is ecstatic to see his mother happy, with her husband and living a free life. They talk all about Anakin's training and his adventures around the galaxy. After Anakin goes to bed, Dooku and Shmi talk. He tells her of Qui-Gon's death shortly after he left, and how now, himself, Qui-Gon's master, has taken over Anakin's training. But he tells Shmi the real reason they came. Anakin was having trouble forgetting about his mother and his past. The fact she was still a slave was eating away at him. They came here to free her so that Anakin could break away from the ties of his past, knowing his mother was living a free life. But seeing her happy and married was the best thing for Anakin. He concludes by telling her this will be the last time she will see Anakin, as now he can break away from the weight of his past and embrace his future. Shmi begins to shed tears as Dooku says this, but knows he is ultimately right. Anakin cannot progress until he's dealt with his past trauma. She thanks Dooku for all he's done, and they leave the next day. Dooku begins training Anakin about the perils of attachments, how they lead to the fear of loss and greed, leading to jealousy. Attachments are selfish, a shadow of greed and thus a path to the dark side of the Force. Many students of the Force have fallen to it before. Anakin agrees and understands. Seeing his mother happy was the best thing for him. He could begin to slowly forget about her and not be haunted by his past. This begins to take time, but with training, he will succeed. In the original story, Palpatine was the father figure Anakin never had, which allowed him to get close to the boy and over many years, manipulate him down the dark path. However, now Dooku would fill this role, and Anakin would never get close to Palpatine. This would change Sidious's plans. Dooku is a mix of Qui-Gon. He follows the living Force, but also sees the flaws of the Jedi Order. He is not blind and resistant to them like Master Yoda. This is good for Anakin. He needed someone grey like Qui-Gon, a father figure who wasn't 100% on board with the dogmatic views of the Jedi. Obi-Wan couldn't fulfill this role as he was too in line with mainstream Jedi views. However, Dooku could. He could fill the gap and be the only Jedi that had the experience, temperament, and patience to deal with Anakin. In the first 10 years of Anakin's training, Dooku considered leaving the Order and taking Anakin with him many times. Corruption in the Senate and darkness in the Force continues to grow without the Jedi doing a thing. The Sith revealed themselves 10 years ago on Tatooine, a declaration of war, but the Jedi have sat back and done nothing. Dooku thinks it cannot be a coincidence that the corruption and failure of the Senate to do good has exponentially increased after the Sith returned. Dooku at this point is back on the Jedi Council and urges for these ideals to be taken seriously. He begins to make some ground as they set up a team to investigate Sith activity around the galaxy and look into how the Sith returned without them knowing. The team has made some advancements, but all they found were people and corporations that had dealt with the Sith in the past, whether knowingly or not, too scared to say anything to the Jedi. But this proved something to the Council. The Sith's reach ran long and deep, deeper than they could have possibly imagined. However, nothing of substance was found until the events of Attack of the Clones. Without Dooku spearheading the Separatists, Sidious needed a new figurehead. Chairman of the International Banking Clan, San Hill, Plagueis, Sidious's master, groomed Hill to this position and was basically the Sith's puppet. Not an ideal figurehead, but the best Sidious could do. They declare war on the Republic, and the Clone War begins. Only weeks ago, the Kaminoans contacted the Jedi Order regarding an order for a clone army by Jedi Master Yarael Poof. The Council was confused by this, and Master Poof urged everyone he never placed such an order. He was one of the Jedi's more peaceful members, always striving to protect peace and justice. Something fishy is going on. Only the Sith can be to blame. However, they have no choice. The Separatists and their army are advancing towards Republic space. Without the clone army, their defeat is guaranteed. They have to accept the army and the Clone War begins. Anakin and Dooku fought valiantly in the Clone War. Their duo was unmatched. However, the Jedi aren't changing their ways. They continue to follow the Senate, regardless of their inaction to try and solve the war through diplomatic measures. Dooku and Anakin are seriously considering leaving the Order. They are fed up. The only thing keeping them in is they feel an obligation to protect the people of the Republic, not the Republic itself. Anakin's dueling skills were off the charts by this time, being trained by one of the Order's best swordsmen. He was very powerful in the Force, especially under Dooku's tutelage. Palpatine also needed a new apprentice. When he found Maul was alive, it was a no-brainer. He also contacted and did deals with Mother Talzin and brought the Night Sisters onto their side. He also had Grievous, whom he had trained himself, and the Separatist forces were formidable. The war rages on for 3 long years. Death and loss has taken over the Republic. The clones fought valiantly, but the Jedi have suffered huge losses. The culmination of the war is coming. The people of the Republic have begun to blame the Jedi for the conflict, all part of Palpatine's plan. The Separatists march on the Republic. Grievous, Maul, Ventress and the Night Sisters bring their forces as the Battle of Coruscant begins. The Jedi fight back. Dooku, Anakin and Sifo Dyas fly their fighters around the battle, towards the command ship with Grievous and Maul on it. They had captured Palpatine, but this was a fate to get the Sith together. But Palpatine didn't expect the Jedi to head for their location. They land and together begin making their way towards the bridge. They find the room with Palpatine in it, but he's closely guarded by Maul. They fight him off and begin to overwhelm him as Grievous enters the fight. However, it's still 2 on 3. They don't stand a chance before Anakin slices down Maul himself. They go to advance on Grievous before Palpatine ignites a red saber and stabs Dyas in the back. Anakin and Dooku are shocked. Palpatine is a Sith Lord? Palpatine was confident that he and Grievous could defeat the 2 Jedi. However, he meant to kill Dyas before Maul died, but missed the opportunity. Palpatine underestimates the Jedi. He didn't know the full power of the Chosen One. Anakin slices off Grievous's arms, and Dooku thrusts his blade into his chest. Sidious looks at the 2 in shock, and sends lightning towards them. The 2 block and advance towards him. With his spare hand, he grabs his comlink and connects to his office and mass meter forwards the message.
Execute Order 66.
The Jedi drop to their knees, and hold their heads as Jedi begin to fall around the galaxy. Sidious explains his plan to them. He's going to kill them, and then storm the Jedi Temple and kill everyone inside. He will not let a single soul stay alive. He sends lightning at the Jedi who wriggle in pain. He goes to slice down Anakin, but Dooku jumps in the way to get his arm chopped off. Using the moment created, Anakin sends Sidious back with the Force back against the wall. He bangs his cerebellum, affecting his balance and thus fighting ability. Anakin looks at Dooku and his arm on the ground. They lock eyes and know what to do. Together they rush Sidious, a 2-on-1, and begin to overwhelm the Sith Lord. They have trained for countless hours together and practiced dueling techniques only the two of them knew. They had a feeling they would come into contact with the Sith Lord eventually, and had come up with measures to defeat them. Now the time has come. The duel was years in the making, but Sidious didn't know it. Their bond in the Force is strong, and they use the techniques they've developed together to penetrate Sidious's defenses, and Anakin deals the finishing blow. They leave the ship and head down towards the Jedi Temple to find it in flames. Clones had already started attacking, but they went inside to see the Council fronting the defense. Clones aren't strong enough to kill Jedi Masters. Order 66 was unsuccessful. The Jedi managed to fight off the clones in the temple before rushing to the Senate to execute Order 65. The forces above the planet, including the Night Sisters, were defeated eventually due to a lack of leadership. With Sidious's death, the whole war has come to an end. Surrender negotiations with the Separatists begin, but the biggest change is in the Jedi Temple. It doesn't take long to rebuild the temple, as there wasn't much damage. However, in the council chambers stands Dooku and Anakin, who are being praised for their job in killing the Sith Lord. But Dooku sees this as an opportunity. He explains how the war was the Republic and Jedi's fault. For decades they ignored the unrest and corruption within the galaxy, especially the Outer Rim, which had been completely taken advantage of and used for companies' profits and personal gain at the cost of the inhabitants' basic rights. He asks and pleads if any change will take place. Mace responds, telling Dooku they will act how the Senate deems fit to recover the galaxy from the war and eventually continue their expansion into the Outer Rim. Dooku cannot believe it. The Council has learned nothing. They are simply going back to their old ignorant ways. He's fed up. He explains there and then, if the Jedi don't change their ways, he will leave the Order and create his own academy in the Force to actually serve the people of the Republic instead of its leaders. The council room stays silent, partially because no one believes what he is saying. Very well, Dooku says, as he walks out with Anakin by his side. Together, the saviors of the Republic, Dooku and Anakin, begin their own order in the Force. They accept students of all ages in the Force and also from the Outer Rim, which the Jedi previously rejected. A lot of members from the Jedi Order who were also disillusioned with their ways joined them, and they have a strong foundation for their new order. They set up on Tython, one of the origin worlds of the Jedi, to connect with their ideals of old. They begin serving the people of the Republic instead of the Senate, maintaining peace, helping rebuild, and resolving conflict. Dooku is the leader of the Order, and with his death, Anakin will take over. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch What If Sifo Dyas joined Count Dooku or What If Count Dooku joined Yaddle. If you want to support the channel, become a channel member or check out our Patreon. We've got a bunch of exciting videos coming soon, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out.